Okay, hello, good afternoon, and good morning, folks. This is Gabe Gurman. Welcome to the Career.Place webinar. I am the co-founder and COO of Career.Place. And just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, and we are going to have it in on our social media sites soon after the webinar is over. If you have any questions, you're all muted right now. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please just post those questions in that Q&A panel. You'll find it in the controls for the Zoom meeting. And at the end of the webinar, we'll get to those questions and be able to answer them. So at this point, I'd like to turn over to Melissa Dobbins, who is our CEO and co-founder. Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. And welcome to the Career.Place webinar. What we're going to show you today is a presentation we gave earlier in the week to a large organization who's considering their talent acquisition process. And what you probably already know is that we are a candidate qualification solution. But let's take a step back and talk about why. Why are we focused on a part of the talent acquisition process? So on the surface, talent acquisition seems easy, right? Hire people. But you have to hire people in a way that's fast and efficient. Because if you don't, you risk losing that great talent that's in your pipeline, and it costs your company money. And you have to do it in a way where you're bringing in the right employees so that they're successful and they're retained. Because if you bring in the wrong employees, or if they leave after a few months, it's costing your company a lot of money. And of course, you have to do it in a way that minimizes liability and maintains compliance. Because if somebody sues you because of who you selected or who you did not select during the hiring process, if you can't easily defend it, then it costs the company money. And of course, you need to do all of this while promoting diversity, because we've all seen all that data that shows how wonderful diversity is for the bottom line. It has to be engaging and competitive, so you're bringing in the best talent, and all of that while protecting your brand. So talent acquisition is not so easy after all. In order to be effective, you need a candidate qualification solution that not only effectively qualifies your applicants, but it does it in a way that increases your efficiency and decreases time to hire. It enables compliance and protects your company by minimizing liability. It promotes diversity by removing bias, and doing all of that while providing a great applicant experience. No problem. For most companies, all that means is redesigning the entire process and keeping their eyes closed so that none of that biasing information gets involved. Or, if you prefer to keep your eyes open, you can use us. Career.Place is a SaaS-based platform that acts as an applicant funnel to qualify candidates consistently and anonymously using your job criteria. So it's fast, it's efficient, it's compliant, and it's unbiased. So how do we do this? Let's start by talking about what we don't do. Most existing solutions start with the resume and all of that wonderful biasing information the resume provides. And of course, that fantastic time-consuming process of sifting through them all. The candidates themselves are known throughout the whole process, which puts the burden of consistency on the process itself. And they're usually evaluated by telling their stories. How many of us have gone through the interview process and the first thing we're asked to do is walk me through your resume? Those are some pretty fantastic, highly practiced stories, aren't they? And then finally, the process is inconsistent, with applicants being asked different questions, sometimes from the same interviewers. So rather than doing it this way, Career.Place does it differently. We start with the job, not the resume, and what those criteria are to be successful in that job. Think of it this way. If you are looking for a solution to another part of your company, buying a piece of technology, you don't start by looking at all the vendors out there and all those beautiful, shiny features that they have to offer. No, you start with your problem and what you need to solve it, and then you look for the vendors that actually solve that problem. Otherwise, you're going to get distracted by all those shiny features and end up with something that doesn't do what you need it to do. Well, that is what we do with applicants. And we do it anonymously so that everyone is focused on what is required of the applicants and not being distracted by those shiny features on a resume. And because we move away from the resume, we can shift from telling a story to showcasing what people are actually capable of by asking them questions that showcase their job abilities or situational analysis. See how they rise to the challenges on the job. And the whole process is consistent. Every applicant gets asked the same questions the same way, making the process highly compliant. But I know what you're thinking. Why not just redact the resume? There are plenty of solutions out there that do it. The black pen on my desk right now is actually quite good at redacting resumes. Okay, well, let's do that. To redact a resume to remove bias, first we need to take out any information about the individual, their name, where they're located, any of their contact information, because that can give away things like gender, ethnicity. And then we also have to take away anything that talks about their title, their current or past titles, because there's title inflation challenges where some demographic groups will tend to be promoted at different levels or given different types of titles. So let's just remove that. Of course, we need to take away any references to industry or university because there could be pedigree biases or industry biases. And of course, anything that talks about dates because there's age and gap bias. All right, okay, there's still some information here, but there's more biases lurking. For example, what about those candidates that can afford to have a professional resume writer writing their resumes for them versus those that can't? Or those that have knowledge of how keywords work and they keyword load their resume versus someone who doesn't. Or someone who might have a buddy who already works at the company or used to and has the inside track of what employers are looking for and how to word various bullets rather than those who don't. So just to be safe, we're going to need a lot more black ink. Or rather than starting with that resume and trying to redact it, start with the job, like what we do with our qualification process. We use a 3-step process, which saves time for both the applicants as well as the employers, because the applicants only go through to the phases that they pass. And we start with basic qualifications. These are the simple things from do you have a driver's license to are you authorized to work in the US to do you know Java? We do not use keywords. We're not searching through documents. We just ask the candidates. That way, there is no miscommunication or misunderstanding. For example, veterans coming out of service might not use the same words that we use or know the right keywords, but they understand where their skills are and they can easily answer the question. This takes applicants about 30 seconds, and it's so much more fair. There's one exception. We do not do just a yes/no question for soft skills. I don't know about you, but I've never had the experience where an applicant will tell me, you know, I'm not very reliable. I'm never going to show up on time. And I have no idea how to communicate properly. We're notoriously bad as humans with knowing our soft skills. So we use integrated assessments to test for those. And then everything else is through a simple questionnaire. For the candidates that meet those basic qualifications, we move on to demonstrate. And these are those job-related questions where candidates answer questions about how they would approach challenges on the job or solve problems. And the employers can evaluate these responses to see if these are the type of individuals that are going to be successful. But what they don't see is if they're evaluating a man or a woman, or their ethnicity, or their age, or anything else that can prove a distraction. Candidates are all evaluated the same way. For those that pass demonstrate, they move on to show, where they can show how they could be a good fit for the company and the team. And at the end of the process, companies have highly qualified applicants that they can be sure meet their needs objectively through the process, so that when they are revealed and you see who they are, their name, their contact information, their resume, portfolio, anything else they choose to share, you know these are candidates that can be very successful on the job. So how do we fit in? Well, we're built on open APIs, so we can easily integrate into your existing ecosystem, or you could use us standalone right now. So you could redesign your process and keep your eyes closed to make sure that you keep bias out of your system. Or you could use Career.Place and effectively qualify your applicants while increasing efficiency and decreasing time, enabling compliance and protecting your company, while promoting diversity by removing bias and creating a great applicant experience. Would you like to see what it looks like?
I would. So I am now going to take over. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'd like to now switch over to a short demonstration of Career.Place, and hopefully my screen is going to be shared now. And welcome to Career.Place. What you're looking at right now is the corporate dashboard. So in the corporate dashboard, you're going to see a listing of all the active jobs that you have. So those are the ones you see in the screen with the screen posted indication over here, and jobs that are in the draft mode down here. And what you can see from this dashboard is we have some statistics around the job, so you can get a clear view of what's going on with the candidate flow and clear indications where action is required on your part for the job. So let's look at this job over here for a product manager, customer experience, which we recently posted. The first piece of information over here is the overall stats of the job. So I can see in this live Spark kind of a representation of that funnel that Melissa showed you to show you how many applicants have applied, how many have passed each of the stages. And if I click on it, I can see a lot of valuable details behind over here. So the first thing I'll show you very quickly, you can see how many times the job has been viewed since it's been posted on the job boards, and how many times people have applied. If I can click in there, you'll see performance data around the different job boards that you're using and how many applicants are actually seeing the job on those job boards. And this is great to know from a budget perspective. You know, where should you potentially double down and put more, maybe more budget on in terms of certain job boards where there may be a better chance of sourcing from, and maybe other ones where maybe you don't want to go to anymore because you're really not seeing the candidate flow come in from them. So we'll show you the applicants that are coming in or viewing the job from these job boards, and the ones that they're applying from as well in this top section over here. And then you'll see this next part over here, the qualification. This is now getting into that funnel that Melissa showed, that first stage. So you'll see in this qualification stage, there's been 8 candidates that have passed the qualification out of the total of 18 that applied. And what's great about this information over here is, besides seeing the high level information that you've had 10 candidates disqualified, you scroll down a little more, you see why they've been disqualified. And in this graph, in this pie chart over here, you'll see that the majority of these candidates, 5 of them, were disqualified due to a travel requirement. If I scroll down a little more, you see, yeah, here are the 5 candidates that could not support a travel requirement of 30% or more. And of course, I can see the other reasons as well the candidates were disqualified for. But the importance of this over here is that you can make a decision and say, well, is there really going to be 30% travel? I mean, maybe it's only going to be travel twice a year. So I could, at this point, while this job is live, actually change the requirement. And let's say I could bring it down to a 10% or something like that. And what that does, it actually does 2 things. The first thing it does is it will go out to the job boards where the job is and replace the requirement on there. The second thing it will do is it will go to these 5 candidates that were told that they didn't meet the requirements of the job, and it'll re-invite them back to the job, stating that the requirements of the job has changed. Would you like to come back and reapply? And this will give them a chance to come back into the job and continue the job application process. So this is the qualify stage. And you'll see down here the other stages, the funnel, that homework stage and that interview stage as well. Let's go on to that homework and interview stage. You'll see in this job over here, we have homework configured, but we actually didn't need to configure the interview, the third stage. We're a very configurable solution. So in this particular job, we really just have a homework stage. If I click on it, you'll see the details here. The first thing you're going to note is that all the applicants are indeed anonymous. This is the most information you're going to see about an applicant in place over here. You'll see this top section represents applications requiring my review. And the bottom section, talking about the applicants that were already unqualified or deemed unqualified for the job. And way below, any applicants who are still in progress to submit their homework. If I were to click on the review button, I'm actually going to see the response from this particular candidate. This job has one homework question, and you'll see on top over here the actual question itself. It's a scenario for a product manager. In this blue section is some explanation text that's a guide for the hiring team. This is a guide that's going to ensure, or really push for the hiring team to consistently evaluate the answers from the candidate. Give them some guidance of what to look for and what could be a good answer and maybe a not so good answer. And down below, the answer from the candidate. You'll see on the right side over here is an area where I could put my rating as a part of the hiring team. And I'll see the other members of the team who's involved with hiring. I can see their ratings as well if I have the right permissions. And I can also put in some comments in place over here. We will keep all this information in an audit trail associated with the candidate throughout the entire flow of the hiring process. Once a candidate has been determined that they have what it takes from a homework section, phase of the application process, they can be progressed on to the next stage. And for this job, it really takes them right to that qualify stage, that short list. And it's in this stage that this is the only stage that you're going to be able to reveal the candidate. And here's an example of a candidate that's been revealed. It's me. And if I open the information, open the candidate information, I can see the candidate's name, their email, their phone number, their resume, any other information they put into their profile in Career.Place is now exposed. I can actually go ahead and chat with the candidate to actually bring them in for an interview. And then once I've made a decision to hire, I can mark that decision in place over here. And let me show you now very quickly what this job looks like. So this is the edit job screens over here. This is where actually you will create the profile of the job and where you can configure the different parts of the job itself. So this first section that's called the job profile, you can see all the different sections that would typically appear in a job ad out in the job boards. You will note over here this modified team. This is a great feature. This is where I can identify I'm the hiring manager in this case, and Melissa happens to be the recruiter. I could also invite subject matter experts from my team who I want to be part of the hiring team as reviewers. They can be invited on here, and they will also have the chance to rate and review the homeworks, and if there was an interview as well. Here are the 3 phases of the job. You can see that, again, very configurable. I can decide what questions I want to ask the candidate. For example, a compensation check over here. I can make a decision that I don't want a compensation question to be asked from the candidate. And by the way, we ask that question the right way. We don't ask them what they make. We ask them what's the minimum they're willing to accept for this type of position. The other piece I'll just show you over here is the assessments piece. And like Melissa mentioned, we have integrated assessments. I happen to have it turned off right now, but I could easily have it turned on for the assessment. And we have the recommended assessments or the soft skills that we're going to be assessing for this position in place. But an organization who has an IO psychometrician can probably help make decisions about other soft skills that maybe potentially could be checked. And then very quickly, I can show you here, here's the homework phase and the interview phase where you can very easily edit the information and add additional questions in place over here that candidates will be asked. And that's really what I wanted to show you. Actually, there's one more piece I'll show you. In this particular job, this product manager job, we actually did make the hire decision, and I'm going to do that right now, actually. Ready to move this phase to the hire stage. Let's keep this job open. The one thing I did want to show you in place over here is that you do have access to an adverse impact report. This will show you a report for this particular job, showing you the demographic data and how it looks at every stage of the process in place over here. It's a very useful report, obviously, to see if there could be any potential adverse impact in the hiring process, and that this information can be exported and shared with other folks in the organization. And that is the demo. Thank you so much for taking the time to see this. I'm now actually going to turn over to our Q&A section over here. I'm actually going to stop the recording first and then go over to see if we have any questions in place. And I just have to find the record button, and then I can actually do that. Stop recording. There we go.